have to go to YouTube to make it go live. Oh, wait. It's not live on YouTube yet. Is it live? I don't think so. Oh, wait. Yes, it is. Cool, we're going to be starting here soon. Let's see. Alright, cool. It says it's live here. Right, but what's going on here? Alright. Please go follow me on social medias at on Twitter, _hunts, on Instagram, _hunts_reviews, and here on YouTube, Sir Hunts, aka Mr. Westeros. I ran a poll for a second channel name on my Patreon, and also I posted it on my YouTube channel for like 12 hours, where people could give me suggestions. I kind of was like, what is it called? Drawn towards Mr. Westeros or Mr. Ice and Fire or something like that, cause Sir, right? So, knightly title, right? What's up, Manhattan Mike and Kingin for Life? Y'all are dope. This is a surprise live stream. I did the Song of Ice and Fire weekly news thing because I watched this channel here on YouTube called Daniel Green, and he does like a fantasy news weekly thing. So I kind of copying him. How's y'all's morning going? Mine's pretty good. Let's see. I'm actually going to be doing, I know it says A Song of Ice and Fire news or whatever, but I'm actually going to be doing some topics that were suggested to me by my executive producers, if Patreon wants to cooperate. Alright, let's see. So this is actually from The North Must Remember, who actually has a YouTube channel here on YouTube. And I see you, Mike, with the coffee. Kingin for Life just woke up. That's what's up. Yeah, I fucked up by being fancy with my coffee. It takes me like 30 minutes to make that shit when I'm like dead asleep. I gotta wash the thing out. That's pretty much it. I gotta wash it out. But yeah, these topics were picked by The North Must Remember, and he has a YouTube channel. I'm sure, hopefully, he's watching this, if not live, afterwards. Comment down below, please, and I'll pin your comment. Make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel. He basically does, like, a continuation of Game of Thrones Season 8, and he's doing, like, rewrites for that. All right. So, if you join my patron tier called Dragon Knight, it's actually an executive producer tier. And the main benefit that you get, you can join for like $30 a month, but the main benefit you get is you get to suggest topics once a month. And I'll make a video on it, or in this case, do a live stream. If we have time, I'm also going to cover my boy Tyler Schnabel's suggestion for topic for his video for this month. It's just the ones for North Must Remember has like, he's got like 7 different topics, and I am very long-winded, so I wanted this to be like an hour long. So let's see. All right. So this is idea number 1 that he says he just wants me to discuss. He says, which 7 characters could represent each of the 7 deities, and for what reason? I know you mentioned this in a live stream, but I was never able to find it. Right. So the video, any video that I suggest that's more than a year or 2 old is going to suck ass. And like, I'll be doing a live stream where someone will ask a question, and if it's a topic that I've made a video on that has that topic in the title, I'll be like, hey, go watch this. And then afterwards, I'll go watch that video that I suggested, and it sucks ass. And I'm like, oh man, why did I just suggest that to that person? If they're a newer viewer and they go and watch that, they're going to think that's what my content is, that shit that I used to put out 2 years ago, right? Not the case. I still put out shit, but I think it's more informed shit, right? So it's like it's a smart shit, right? As opposed to just nonsense, whatever I feel like making that day. I've never read the book, so I'm just going to make a video on something that I don't really have a full picture of. That was my mentality back then. Not anymore. But anyway, so the question was, which characters could represent some of the deities in A Song of Ice and Fire? A video that I did, P Easy, what's up, my boy? Says, wake and bake match one, hell yeah. Technically, I've been awake since 6:30, but, same thing, same difference. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so, in that video, I think I'd said something like Theon is the champion of the drowned god, and like, Davos is the champion of such and such, and Jon Snow is this and that. That's not, like, it's not really the best summarization in that video, because like I said, I never read the A Song of Ice and Fire books, so I didn't really know full representation or have the full picture of what's going on, right? So let me summarize. I'll do 3. You said 7, but I'll do 3. This is hard because I always go between Jon and Jaime for the warrior, right? So the warrior is one of the faith of the 7, one of the faces of the faith of the 7, right? So the average individual who just practices the faith of the 7, so the average Andal, usually south of the neck, right? They think that there are 7 different deities that represent the faith of the 7. That's actually not the case. It's one deity that has 7 different aspects, but it's all the same person, right? So you have the god of the 7 that will have a face for the mother, right? And that's someone who's supposed to show mercy and be caring, and basically what Catelyn Stark is. Catelyn easily as fuck embodies the champion, so to speak, of the mother, right? She's literally going around in the first 3 books, right? She obviously dies in Storm of Swords, but the first 3 books, she's going around mothering Westeros. Like, she's trying to make brothers come together, right? Renly and Stannis. Renly goes, but I have this peach. And Stannis is like, what the fuck your peach, right? Starts grinding his teeth, intensifies. The whole time she's there, she's like, hey, y'all, chill out. If I was your mother, I'd knock your heads together, right? And say, sit down and work this out. She's also stupid, too, because, like, she makes some dumb choices like all characters do, because some of the ramifications of her releasing Jaime at the end of A Clash of Kings really wreak havoc on Robb's war party and sort of forces him into the corner of, like, going into the Red Wedding, like taking, hey, my uncle's going to marry one of your daughters, Walder, instead of me, because I married this Westerling bitch that I fell in love with because I broke my leg and she helped me heal, right? But all of that is kind of forced to, like, Theon taking Winterfell, if Robb was listening to Catelyn, wouldn't have happened, but every character kind of makes stupid mistakes, and now I'm rereading Storm, I'm like listening to Catelyn's thoughts or reading her thoughts, and she's like, if you would just do this, and it's like, no, because you've made mistakes too, so you don't really know what's going to happen in a certain situation. Like, she keeps thinking, like, Robb is still a child. He's not being a king in this moment. He's being a child. Like, basically, they're talking about trading off Sansa for hostages, and now they just found out Sansa is married to Tyrion. Catelyn gets mad at Robb for not thinking something clearly and still kind of being, like, childlike. But then she does the same thing and thinking, like, you kind of put all of your hopes in Tyrion by releasing Jaime, but you never had messaged Tyrion to say, hey, I'm releasing your brother as a hostage. Can you bring me back my daughters? And that in and of itself is a childish mistake. So she is getting mad at Robb for having childlike motivations and thinking that way, but she's doing it herself. So it's kind of, it's like, I don't know. So yeah, Catelyn, the mother, right? For sure, she's all about mercy until she comes back. Lady Stoneheart is death. So, extremes, right? Catelyn can be both. I think a lot of people will say Arya is the embodiment of, the stranger, but I think Catelyn, Lady Stoneheart, is So she's the Mercy when she's alive, right? Like Mother Mercy. And then when she comes back, she's the Lady Death, right? The Stranger. So that would just count that as one. So getting back to the warrior, right? I always jump back between Jon Snow and Jaime because Jaime honestly has a better story. Jon Snow's got a good story too, but also it's kind of like you let the wildlings through, you worked your way up from the bottom, but you're mostly in the north fighting the White Walkers, and the White Walkers plot hasn't emerged into the full frontal, like how it is in the TV show. It's not full on like that in the books yet. Like, we kind of need more characters to be up north and just more things to happen. Like, Daenerys needs to get over the Westeros with the dragons, and I'm pretty sure the zombies, or that's when they're going to break through the wall, right? If that even happens. So that's why I kind of jump back and forth. And it's interesting. I always, favor Jon as the embodiment of the warrior when I'm reading his chapters. And then when I'm reading Jaime in A Storm of Swords, I'm like, no, this dude is the warrior, right? He lost his hand you could say it's for pushing Bran out the window, but really it's because of how dangerous he was, how badass of a warrior he was, right? So Vargo Hoat had the Fat Dothraki remove his hand because Jaime was a threat. And after Jaime has his threat, just to sort of confirm this, after Jaime has his hand removed, they still lash him and tie him up to a tree. Even though he doesn't have his fighting hand, he's just a one-armed man, or one-hand man, Bane, right? He still is like the mummers. The bloody mummers still are afraid of him enough that they still tie him up, right? So that's why lines like that, and then, you realize Jaime sacrificed his honor to do the right thing in killing the Mad King. Like, people just think he killed the Mad King because the Mad King was this crazy dude who burned Ned Stark's brother and his father. No, it's more like Jaime saw the plans of what Aerys planned on doing. That meant not only Jaime's death, but everybody in King's Landing. Like, Aerys planned on going out in a giant funeral pyre. Like, he was going to blow up King's Landing, and Targaryens have funeral pyres when they die anyway. So Jaime saw this and was like, nah, I can't not let this happen. I'm killing everybody. Like, that's Jaime's arc. That, in my opinion, is way cooler than letting some wildlings south of the wall because you got some redheaded pussy from one of them. Oh, like, that's what Jon did. He's like, I love your kisses, I love your titties, I love your pink pussy, I love coming inside you, I love this, I love that. I love your hair, I love your smell, I love your crooked teeth. Like, he's literally thinking this while he's having sex with her. And then he also goes back to, he's like a I guess a Catholic in the sense that he's constantly feeling guilty about things that he does. But, when he first starts hooking up with her, he's like, oh, this is so guilty. I feel so guilty. It feels so good. And then he thinks, finally, if the gods wanted this to be wrong, why does it feel so right? But anyway, when you look at it from that perspective, like I said, Jaime had to do some crazy hard decisions. He's such a badass fighter that even though he loses his hand, people are still scared of him, right? I feel like he is a better embodiment of the warrior. I think Jon's a tricky one because he's still going through his arc. Whereas, like, there's a lot of characters in A Song of Ice and Fire who their arcs are already kind of completed when the story starts, and then you get to see them after that, right? So one of those characters in particular, Robert Baratheon, his whole arc was his rebellion. And then you see the aftermath when the story starts. This fat drunken dude who still thinks he's the same person he was, 10 to 15 years ago, and kind of, just wants to live up the better days, or like the good old days, you know what I mean? Jon's kind of going through his arc right now. He starts out as this lowly bastard who just begs to join the Night's Watch. Then when he joins the Night's Watch, he fucking hates it. Then he finally starts to settle in, and then his father dies, and then Winterfell's taken, and he keeps trying to go south several times, and it's like we're witnessing that journey as it's happening. Whereas Jaime, he had this massive arc before the story started, right? He's one of the youngest Kingsguard members, and he joins the Kingsguard just so he can hook up with his sister, right? He can always be close to Cersei. he witnesses the events of what happens, the fallout between his father Tywin and the Mad King Aerys, right? And then still a Kingsguard. Robert's Rebellion happens. He watches Ned Stark's brother and father murdered, right in front of him. He watches the Mad King over, those 10 years or so go crazier and crazier. So and then eventually results in him killing the Mad King. He's named the Kingslayer, and then we meet him at Winterfell in Book 1. So, my opinion, characters that have that backstory already before the story started, it's kind of more interesting, better to read in the sense, because we're watching Jon's journey, or reading it rather, as it's happening, and Jaime's is kind of at a different point. He's more advanced. He's a more advanced character in that sense. So I feel like Jaime should be the one for the warrior. Catelyn will be the mother and also the stranger, but I'll just count that as one. So Catelyn the mother, Jaime the warrior. The third one would be R'hllor. Now, obviously, R'hllor has several champions, right? He's got Thoros of Myr, a.k.a. Beric Dondarrion, right? Now Lady Stoneheart, right? Before that, Melisandre. Melisandre says it's Stannis. The Red Priestesses and priests over in Essos, Mokoro, they all think, Kinvara on the TV show, they think Daenerys is, the fire deity incarnate. Here's the thing. The fire deity is so powerful, they have two champions, right? Two of them. And they're not both fire related. So this is kind of where Jon fits in, right? Daenerys and her dragons are champions of R'hllor. They are champions of the fire god, whoever that may be. Jon is champion of the opposite of R'hllor. So you always hear R'hllor is the light who casts this bright light, and then the shadow that falls behind, that's his evil side. That's his dark side. The shadow side, you can interpret it that way as a dark lord, but you could also say, it's ice. Light equals fire. Ice equals darkness, right? There's no sun, right? Everything freezes. So Jon's the old gods champion through Bran. The old gods have Bran and Jon. Damn, that's why it's hard to do this. That's probably why I scapegoated the question when you asked me before in the live stream, and I was like, oh yeah, just go watch my video that I did on that. It's kind of hard to do, but Jon is the champion of ice. When he comes back, when he's resurrected, it would probably be through, Melisandre's there at the wall, and she's got R'hllor's magic, right? But also, R'hllor's magic could be tied into that forgotten old gods of the north, because remember, people forgot their names. Their faces carved on a tree, but also, they were at one point a massive religion, right? So it's possible that R'hllor could have been a version of one of those old fire deities, and it turned into something over in Essos, something, different, but also pretty similar. Jon represents the frozen half of that aspect, and Daenerys represents the fire half. I feel like that's a good one, because this is still the first question. It took me 17 minutes to answer. Shout out to Paris, Havana, Tyler Cruz, Pete Easy. Oh, I already said what's up to Pete. Divine Sharika, Reese from Philly, and Dennis Sorensen. What's up, my brother? Also, Northwest, remember, if you watch this afterwards, shout out, my dude. All right, so the next one. Okay, so let me go over that again. Catelyn is the mother. Jaime is the warrior. Jon Snow is ice, and Daenerys is fire. The 17 minutes speech that I just did on that is a lot better. All right, so the next one, he says, based on book evidence, which is more likely? Jaime and Cersei being fathered by the Mad King, or Tyrion being fathered by the Mad King? So there's this idea that Jaime and Cersei could be the Mad King spawn and get, right? So then you have Jaime. Not only did he kill the Mad King, he killed someone that was his king, but also he killed potentially his father, if that's the case. So Jaime should be the most cursed individual in all of Song of Ice and Fire, because just like Tyrion, technically, he killed his dad. He's a kinslayer. None are more cursed than those who slay kin in A Song of Ice and Fire. We'll see in House of the Dragon, Rhaenyra is deathly afraid of killing her sibling. Well, I mean, we may not see in House of the Dragon, but in Fire and Blood, it's mentioned specifically that Rhaenyra hated the idea of her being the one to kill her family members. Obviously, Aegon, too, didn't give a shit. He fed Rhaenyra to Sunfire. But the idea of like killing your kin and even with Theon and stuff, it's like it's kind of like a no-no. You don't really want to do that, right? So wouldn't that make the story more juicier if Jaime not only saved, or at least in his head, saved the realm, saved the at least all of the citizens of King's Landing, right? Who then turn around and fucking hate him and call him Kingslayer and all that stuff. He also killed his dad. So it's like he did a good thing by saving the city, but he did a terrible thing by killing his father, right? And there's also a famous story in the north of Bael the Bard, who, like, he heard the King of Winter, a Stark, who was saying, like, yo, Bael the Bard is this and that, and he's a piece of shit. And then Bael the Bard heard about that story, snuck over the wall, went to Winterfell, and impregnated one of Bael the Bard's daughters, and gave her a son. King of the North finds out about this, but Bael the Bard's like, you're welcome. Or the story goes that he goes there and plays a song. And the King of Winterfell is like, the Stark, he's like, what do you want? That was a really good song. How can I pay you for this? And he's like, I'll take one winter rose. And he obviously gives him a winter rose, but the Bael steals off with the King Stark's daughter, impregnates her, gives her a son, and that King Stark, I think, didn't have any male heirs except for a daughter. So then he got a male heir. So basically, that Stark that Bael the Bard has with the Stark daughter becomes the ruler of Winterfell, becomes king in the north, and then eventually goes and fights Bael, who was a true king of the north, king beyond the wall. So the king beyond the wall is the father of the king of Winterfell, right? And the king beyond the wall, Bael the Bard, refuses to kill his son, right? Because kinslaying, and House Stark, the his bastard son who rules House Stark, Bael the Bard's bastard, ends up killing him in battle. And there was like some sort of curse or something after. I can't remember the specific details of it. I mean, I remember the whole damn thing, but the specifics of what follow. I think it's something like, it's not good, right? And then you also have the story of the Rat Cook, who basically killed several individuals for breaking guest right. So guest right is pretty serious in the north. When you come into somebody's house, if you're their enemy, it doesn't matter. If you break bread with them and you eat of their bread and salt, you're good. They have to protect you while you're under their roof. They can't murder you or kill you. So what was the actual question? I forgot. Based on book evidence, which is more likely, Jaime and Cersei being fathered by the Mad King or Tyrion? So if it's Jaime and also Cersei, Jaime's really screwed because, like I said, he killed his father. I've mentioned this thousands of times, but it makes more sense for it to be Jaime and Cersei because they're older, right? So Jaime and Cersei are technically born away from King's Landing. They're born in Casterly Rock because when Tywin brings the kids, he brings them to court. The Mad King and Tywin's history when they were younger was pretty solid, but then as they age and the Mad King's paranoia and psychosis or whatever takes over, they start to become more and more estranged. And one of the big things you got to know about Tywin's character is he hates being laughed at, and the Mad King started making fun of him. It is possible. I mean, it just, we don't, like, the evidence is that there's rumors that, Aerys, being the king, could take liberties with any woman he wanted to. And then you hear about the story of Jaime, one of the last memories or whatever that he shares before the Robert's Rebellion happens is that one night the Mad King Aerys was like playing with fire with his pyromancing guild, and when he sees fire, that gets him turned on and he gets really horny. So then he went to go see Rhaella, Daenerys' mother, Jon Snow's grandmother, that Mad King's wife, and he like savages her. He like scratches her all over, bites her. She's like bruised and battered afterwards. And Jaime's outside the door listening to that the whole time. So when you hear stuff like that, you realize, okay, yeah, the Mad King was pretty like Maegor levels of savage in the sense that he would probably take any woman he wanted to. And then you realize Tywin was at court with his wife Joanna, and Aerys had a fondness for Joanna, right? And Joanna was the one thing that Tywin cared about. So if the Mad King is trying to piss off Tywin because Tywin's trying to become too powerful because the Mad King is becoming suspicious, would you not think taking, your privilege as the king, like kings in Westeros. Technically, it's an old tradition, but they could. It's called the Lord's right to first night. So when there was a virgin bride who just got married, the Lord could sweep through and take her maidenhead. Right. That's probably like when you hear how Ares was sexually, you're like, oh yeah, he could totally do that. So answering your question, I kind of feel like it makes more sense for it to be Jaime and Cersei as opposed to Tyrion, because Tywin would know about that if it happened to his wife, and he would leave immediately. And there's like a bit of mysteriousness as to why he leaves. I mean, he's directly insulted, but it's not. He just grabs everything and goes back to Castle Rock, and he's like, all right, I'm no longer the Hand. And then in the end, Rossard is named the Hand, one of the pyromancers. So to answer your question, it is possible for Jaime and Cersei to be the Mad Kings, get more so than Tyrion. Jaime, in A Feast for Crows, sees Cersei in a different light when she burns the Tower of the Hand with wildfire. Wildfire washes over her face, and Jaime's like, holy shit, she kind of looks like the Mad King. Because remember, Jaime used to watch the Mad King getting off on the, pyromancer stuff, so it's possible. What's interesting is Jaime actually has a dream about the Battle of the Blackwater. Before it happens, he had dreams because, remember, he knows what the Mad King was planning on doing, and that dream kind of haunted his nightmares for years. And then when he hears the news of the Battle of the Blackwater in a storm of swords, he immediately goes, oh shit, that dream. He has a dream vaguely of like a giant lance of green flame shooting up over the city and burning everything, right? And that's what happened. Tyrion used wildfire to light the Blackwater on fire and burn all of Stannis' ships. So Tyrion, I think it makes the most sense for Tyrion to be Tywin's son, Tywin's bane, right? There's the idea that Tyrion's a chimera and that he's the son of both Tywin and King Aerys, and there's no precedent of humans being cat-like in a sense in A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, there might be some deep, deep cuts in World of Ice and Fire or something, but it's not prevalent. It's not George does mention that giant females cannot mate, or I'm sorry, giant males, giant, not big dudes, but giant, actual giants, Children of the Forest giants, Age of Heroes giants. The males can't mate with females, but the female giants can mate with male giants, right? And this is how you get super tall individuals or people that look unhuman in the sense that their strength and their height is otherworldly. It's because they probably have some giant's blood in them. And sometimes that giant's blood comes in the form of strength, right? So Jon has the blood of the Children of the Forest and the giants in him, and there's this thing where in Dance with Dragons, wildlings are driving stakes into the ground, and they get frozen hard overnight, and they've got heads of Jon's scouts on them, and Jon goes and pulls one of the stakes out of the ground by himself, and it takes 2 and 3 other men to pull those stakes out. They want to pull them out to get rid of their scouts' heads that are on top of the spears. That's the only DNA mixing kind of evidence we have. We don't have someone being having 2 separate fathers and a mother. You know what I mean? That's never really been the case. And there could be something that I'm missing from that theory, because I know some people take the theory seriously. But people say Tyrion's a chimera because he's got 2 mismatched eyes, like David Bowie, right? He's got one dark eye, which looks purple sometimes, and then one green eye, like typical Lannisters. I don't think that's the case. I think Tyrion is Tywin's son. What's interesting is that there's always a possibility, right? Because we still have 2 whole ass books left for a new POV to remember something that we could then, connect to Tyrion being spawn of the Mad King, or maybe that would make him Daenerys' brother. Right? Isn't that nuts? He would be Daenerys' brother, so he would be able to ride one of her dragons, no questions asked. No hesitation. He would marry his half-sister. Daenerys kept seeing visions of dwarven people savaging her in the House of the Undying, so that could be dark way of saying, oh, you're going to marry a midget, or you're going to marry a little person, Tyrion. He's actually your half-brother. Maybe the lineage connection will be revealed when Tyrion mounts a dragon, because as far as everybody else knows in Westeros, Tyrion is full-on Lannister. Like, his parents are both Lannister, not just Tywin. Joanna is Tywin's cousin, so he's full Lannister, right? So it'd be really weird if he's able to mount a dragon. And so to wrap up that whole question, it's possible that Jaime and Cersei are way more possible than Tyrion, in my opinion, until we get Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring, and some POV is revealed where someone was around during the Mad King's court and saw him savage Joanna Lannister, and when her and Tywin got married. It's possible. But thank you for submitting that, my dude. These are all from the Northwest. Remember, he is an executive producer over on Patreon. And then his third question, it's funny because at the end he says, hopefully you do one or two of these is interesting enough to do a video on. Not all of them. Little does he know, I'm a live stream. Hopefully he's watching right now. It sucked. Oh, snap. We got 22 people watching. That's what's up. Shout out to Shelwyn, Nikolai Jurikin, Carrot Cake, and Yoga Dork. Wait, what? The current. Y'all are watching. There's no like skipping or anything. Can y'all type in the chat? Let me know if like the mic's gone out or if anything like that. Because I just got a weird ass notice saying the current bitrate for this stream is 2746.45 kilobytes per second, is lower than the recommended. Open the widget. So why? It says it's good. Is it not streaming in 1080p? Not streaming in 1080p. I don't know. That's a weird message. Anyway. Shout out to everybody watching this live. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is a really fun one. His third topic was, if you were in charge of Winterfell's defenses, how would you organize your forces to fight during the long night? So I'm going to have to actually give two answers for this one. So TV show version and then the book version. My TV show version is going to suck because honestly, I know way more about it's funny how that works. For the first 5 years of YouTube, I knew everything about the TV show and knew very little to nothing about the books. I would know the most commonly repeated theories and stuff, and I'd be like, oh yeah, in the books, this, and that I heard from other people, right, or read online, right? Now, I can say this shit, I can say this, not say a curse word, but I can say this with pride and say I know way more about the books than I do about the TV show. My memory space for show knowledge has like sort of depleted and been filled in with the book stuff. A lot of the times when I'm thinking of book stuff, I think it's what happened on the TV show. So that's not the case. I guess I should go back and rewatch Game of Thrones. But you said if you were in charge of Winterfell's defenses, how would you organize your forces to fight the long night? All right, so let's do the TV show first. So in the TV show, the forces at Winterfell are Daenerys, and Daenerys' forces consists of Dothraki and Unsullied and her dragons, 2 dragons. So all of Winterfell's forces. So Daenerys, her dragons, Dothraki, Unsullied, right? And then at Winterfell, you have the Stark's forces and the Knights of the Vale. So that's like, what is that? Dragons, Dothraki, Unsullied, Knights of the Vale, House Stark, Bannerman. So 5 different sort of like people to direct. I would put Daenerys' dragons out front. And I think that's what they did. Didn't Daenerys and Jon go and attack the Night King's forces to kind of distract, to get them to split up over? I don't even remember the plan of the Long Night, but literally, I would have had Daenerys' dragons go out hardcore. So Jon and Daenerys would have led the forces out front, right? Then behind them, you have, you would. Yeah, see, I'm not a battle guy. I haven't read enough wartime strategy books to know how to do this. And also, Winterfell in the Song of Ice and Fire novels is massive compared to the little castle we saw on the TV show. So it's a lot harder to defend a castle Or I'm sorry, it's a lot. I don't know. I'm getting too sidetracked. I would have had Daenerys and her dragons out front. I would have put them out, taking on the army of the dead. The reason being is because the Night King only has one dragon, right? Daenerys has two. So I feel like 2v1 should be no problem. They should have easily been able to take out the Night King or at least kill his dragon. That's kind of what ended up happening, right? Viserion fell to the ground and then Jon screamed at it. So I would have had Daenerys and Jon leading the attack, and then on their flank or right behind them, you have the mounted men, you have the Dothraki, and the Knights of the Vale, and anybody else who can ride a horse. You have them sweep in behind them to take out the army of the dead. Did they light all their swords on fire? I think that was a thing. The Dothraki rode out first with their flaming swords or flaming arcs, and then just disappeared into nighttime. I would have put the catapult up front. I wouldn't have put it behind, way back, right? I would have put it way up front so that I could actually do what its purpose was, which was to keep the enemies at bay, keep them from coming in all at once, right? It's just turned into me bashing the show because I wasn't really prepared for this question. Damn, how would I do it? And that's the thing too, is like I'm trying to do it for the show, but I feel like the show, aside from like certain tactical things like putting the catapult like behind your lines and kind of wasting the Dothraki in a sense, like that's probably, I would have done some similar things they did except for those like two big things. So I'm gonna have to pass this off to people watching now live and then people watching afterwards. How would you handle the Battle of the Winterfell for the TV show? So that's actually kind of easy because that was just the one episode. The Long Night in the books might actually be a thing. Might actually be like a 2-year thing that's like a time jump between Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring or something, right? Maybe that's why it's called A Dream of Spring, is because at the end of Winds of Winter, there's like a 2-year winter that happens or something. I don't know. It's easy to say how I would organize my forces to like fight during the long night, and that would be I wouldn't, right? So this is my book answer of this question. I would not make my forces ready to fight, right? I would literally just hunker down and prepare for winter. The long night itself, and I think this is me misconstruing your question, but it's just fun. I'm just going to go on this tangent. The long night itself is just a heavy winter, right? Like the sun disappears and it's blacked out, and it could last for 5 years, right? As far as we know, it's only a band of heroes that go north of the wall that kill, the bad guy, make the winter go away. Azor Ahai, right? We have that story of this dude who literally forged a sword that lit on fire, and he saved the world from eternal darkness. It just means that he brought dragons back into the world like Daenerys, and used those dragons to defeat the old ice god and push their forces back at bay and brought summer on. And then any winter that happens after that is mostly up north and is only a few years or so. And it only happens after, 5 or 6 year long summer or whatever. So me personally, if I was the ruler of Winterfell, I wouldn't risk no lives. We're going to need as much meat to eat as possible. You send out your army to go fight and kill people. You're not going to be able to be cannibals to survive the actual long winter. And you're like, Sir Hunt, you would willingly become a cannibal? Well, no, but Starks do. Starks are cannibalistic, right? People always go, the Northmen are pretty honorable because when hard, long winters come, they go walk out into the woods to say they're going on one last hunting trip and go die. And what do you think happens? What do you think happens? They just leave the fresh frozen meat out there? No. Somebody from the group goes and cuts off parts of their legs and body, and then they go and save their... That's what that means. Right? So you hear, when you're reading A Song of Ice and Fire, you realize that the Northmen would sort of like hang body parts in trees to please their god, right? And like it kind of seems like it's a blood magic type of thing, because literally why would you hang entrails to feed a hungry god through a tree if there wasn't some sort of sacrificial thing that was supposed to happen? So the Northmen are forced to do hard things like cannibalize their family members, and this is why they worship. It's hard for me to explain, but yeah. So I would be like a typical Stark in the sense that I wouldn't fight the long night. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing steam here. I need to go heat up some coffee. I'll be right back. Let me put this waiting screen. It is pretty early. I'll be right back. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next question. That's kind of a hard one. Sorry about that, my dude, Matt, aka North Must Remember. All right, so the next one, this is a show related one. He says during the show, the Taisha reveal. Sorry, let me get rid of my oily mouth from coffee. I hate it when I'm listening to podcasts and then the person's drinking coffee and they don't realize how oily their mouth sounds. It's kind of nasty. During the show, the Taisha reveal was never used. When and where would you have shoehorned this into the show? I, for one, cannot think of a single place where it would have been appropriate. So that's another thing I can't remember for the Game of Thrones TV show was like Taisha and what happened to her with Tyrion. That wasn't revealed. That's like his massive cornerstone. Maybe they did a different version of it on the TV show. But like, so in short, Jaime and Tyrion discover this like woman who's being attacked on the side of a road, and they help her, and Tyrion takes her back to an inn, gets her clothes, they have a meal, and then Tyrion ends up falling in love with her. They get married and sort of run away for a short period of time. And then eventually Tywin finds out about this and then has the entire garrison of Lannister men rape her and then pay her in pieces of silver and then make Tyrion watch. And then Tyrion goes last, does it, right? And then pays her gold or something. Like, it's really messed up. So, like, that's what happens, right? And then Taisha is sent away. And Tyrion is like, asks his dad, where is Taisha? Where do whores go? And Tywin's like, wherever whores go, right? Into Tywin's bed. Because Tywin has a tunnel built from the Tower of the Hand to go sneak in to see Alayaya and Shataya. That whorehouse, anyway. So... I don't know. You say it was never used. So what was Tyrion's motivation? How did they leave something like that massive out? Like Dan and Dave. What the hell, bro? You added in a part where Roz goes all the way down to King's Landing and gets murdered with a crossbow. A self-reloading crossbow or whatever. It's got like it's like some sort of advanced, which Tyrion does give Joffrey a crossbow in the books, but Joffrey shoots cats. He murders cats. It's messed up. It's this scene after Tyrion gives Joffrey the crossbow. Sansa's brought up to Joffrey because Joffrey summoned her, and Sansa sort of walks onto the scene, and there's like a yowling cat with the it's messed up. I'm a cat guy with the crossbow bolt through it, and the cat's like, and Sansa walks up like, what is this crazy motherfucker doing? And then you find out Tyrion gave him the crossbow, and that's what he does with it. So on the TV show, they made him kill Roz and like pin her hands to the other one, and he made Roz rape the one girl with the crazy looking thing or whatever. Like, they did all that, but didn't put in Taisha and Tyrion to his whole point of like that's why he killed Tywin. Like, I guess what they did on the show was make it so that his whole motivation was because Tywin put him on trial and said that he killed Joffrey or whatever. It doesn't really work as good as it does in the books, because Tyrion, the whole time you're reading his POV, you're like, wow, he really hates his father, but also respects him at the same time. It's a messed up relationship they have, right? I don't know. I feel like the perfect spot to do it would be in one of the scenes that Tyrion has with Shay, right? Like, the problem with Tyrion trying to save Shay, I think it happens on the TV show too, is that she doesn't want to leave his side. She kind of wants to, she doesn't care that he gets married in the books. And she's like, okay, so service Sansa and then come sleep with me. Like, she really doesn't care. On the TV show, they show Shay getting jealous, and she checks Sansa's bed after Tyrion and Sansa are married, and she's like, did they hook up? Like, she actually cares about it, whereas in the books, she doesn't. She's literally just a whore. She's like, I don't care, dude. Go do what you got to do. I'll sit here with my nice fancy jewels in my dress and be listening to singers and getting drunk all day. I don't care, dude. You know what I mean? But for the TV show, because Tyrion and Shay's relationship is what it is, a lot better than it is in the books, and I've actually told the actress who plays Shay, Sybil Kekili, I told her in person. I was like, I love your rendition of the character. But yeah, the TV show's relationship with Tyrion is a lot better. Also, Shay isn't an 18-year-old girl. She's like closer to Tyrion's age. And what's interesting is that in the books, Tyrion's like 27. He's like 27, 28. On the TV show, they made him like 35, almost 40, because of, you know, how old. I don't know how old he was supposed to be in the first season, but Peter Dinklage was already like well into his 30s. He was not playing. Well, I don't know how old Peter Dinklage is. Maybe he was into his 40s. I don't know. But anyway, you know, during a conversation that Tyrion and Shay are having, when Tyrion's trying to explain to her why she has to leave because his father's back and he's no longer Hand of the King, insert the conversation there. Tyrion will explain to Shay, even though in the books that would never happen, because Tyrion isn't that close with Shay in the sense that he would tell her his deepest, darkest secrets, right? But he could, in the TV show, he would explain it to her and maybe hopes to try to get her to run away, right? Is that, like, this is what my dad does. This is the kind of shit that my father, Tywin Lannister, does. So I'm trying to save you from stuff like this. That's where I would have personally put it in it. Then the next one, he said, idea number 5, Bran's powers. What can he do and not do? His limitations were never really discussed. What limitations would you place on his ability? So I'm going to do this for the TV show, because for the books, Bran's still in training, and we can see that for sure he time travels. He can go not just back in time, but into the future as well. Like, he shows up as an adult face, older version of himself to Jon while Jon's in a wolf dream. And then he opens Jon's third eye, helps Jon realize his powers and him being a warg. So Bran's powers in the Song of Ice and Fire novels, as of right now, are kind of limitless. If you can time travel back and forth, not just go back, but go forward as well, you're kind of unstoppable. Also, you seemingly have way longer life range than the average person. Bloodraven's like 130 years old or something like that. So, potentially, Bran has the ability to be semi-immortal and all-powerful. Like omnipresence. He can be in the past, the future, and the present at the same time. But for the TV show, he likes to watch. He can go back and past. It's not really discussed on whether he can go forward in the future, but he can definitely look at the past. And he can view things that are happening in the present timeline because he watched Sansa being married. But here's the thing. That's actually not true, because he doesn't get that memory until he goes to the Weirwood tree in Winterfell and touches the tree for the first time in season 6. So, Bran's not really that powerful. He's just a warg king. I'm sorry, not a warg king. He's a green seer. Like, he can warg his direwolf Summer, who's dead. And he also warged the ravens to spy on the Night King. He did warg the birds. The ravens to spy on the Night King when the Night King was amassing his army north of the wall. Remember, he does that, and this is where he gets marked. He gets that mark on his arm, and then the Night King is able to track him to Bloodraven's cave. I would say that Bran would have a normal life and that his visions would slowly dissipate. That would be my cap on his powers, right? Because he's not in the north, and there are no weirwood trees in Winterfell. And in the Song of Ice and Fire, the only way to make a weirwood tree is you place the acorn of a fallen brother of the Night's Watch. You place an acorn in their grave, and then eventually the acorn grows into a weirwood tree as the body of the fallen brother of the Night's Watch decomposes. Or maybe it's just got to be a body of a first man, because first men worship the tree gods, and a lot of times Night's Watchmen will say their vows in front of the tree gods. It's kind of like the Dothraki in the sense that the Dothraki believe everything important in a man's life should happen out in the open sky. The Northmen think that everything important in life should happen in front of a weirwood tree. So Bran's away from that, so his life-extending capabilities are drawn back tremendously, and he can no longer warg and see visions because after he's been disconnected from the weirwood net for a while, he loses that ability. That would be my cap that I'd put on Bran's powers. Thank you for that one, dude. That was really funny. Really fun. The next one, and I think this is the last. Yeah, this is the last one. From the North Must Remember. Again, he is an executive producer over on my Patreon tier known as the Dragon Knight. And he says, idea number 6. How long has the live stream been so far? 51 minutes. Perfect. Idea number 6. What was the purpose of the comet, the red comet? This seems to be a very under-discussed part of the lore, and we'll go into the show. We'll step away from the show for this one and go into book lore. So, the red comet. By the way, this is 100% THCA, which means it is legal all over the country. I don't know if anybody knows this, but THCA is actually in regular weed, right? What's illegal is THC. Most weed in legal states and in illegal states have very little actual THC in it. It's THCA that is the active ingredient in most cannabis. Once you smoke it, it then becomes tetrahydrocannabinol delta 8 THC or whatever, right? So that's a combustion process. So most of the bud that I get is regular bud that's just been cut before THCA naturally converts into THC. So when you see me smoking my videos and stuff, 100% legal thanks to the federal government. It's a loophole. It's a legal loophole where like anybody in the United States can go buy weed. Most places will have what's called THCA bud available. It's just dry, doesn't smell as great, but it gets you psychoactively engaged in content such as A Song of Ice and Fire, right? Anyway, I just felt like I should say that because a lot of people were commenting, were like, man, this guy's getting wasted. Or, man, how is this guy doing that on his videos? That is how. I bought this at the gas station, partner. What was the purpose of the comet? It seems to be a very under-discussed part of the lore. Okay, so in the books, all right, in the Clash of Kings, specifically after Ned Stark dies and Daenerys brings dragons into the world. Let's discuss what it means for a few different characters. For Daenerys, let's start with her because she's the best. Speaking of which, you see this painting right here, this lovely painting right here? That's from my boy Jay Fox, right? My boy Jay Fox is an artist out of the UK. I follow him on Instagram, and one of the rewards for my executive producer Patreon tier is that you get digital prints of this man's paintings. But soon to be added over here, right, in between, I'm going to have to rearrange the wall and push the Daemon painting over this way. He's making me a Daenerys one, right? Daenerys, season 8, standing in front of the Dothraki in the unsullied the steps of King's Landing, and she burned down the city. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be right over here. Jay Fox, if you're watching this, I'm waiting. I can't wait. Give me. I'm just kidding. I feel like if I had money, I would fucking pay him money. and I don't. So I try to promote his stuff as much as possible. Go follow Jay Fox on Instagram. He does amazing. He doesn't just do a Song of Ice and Fire stuff neither. He does MMA stuff. He does different TV shows. I think one of them is Yellowstone. He does musicians. He's done Tupac. He did some. There's a country singer. His most recent post. The dude's name is like Chris Stapleton or something. He's extremely talented. Go check him out. But the Red Comet, what does it mean to Daenerys Stormborn? Well, it means a way out of the Red Waste. Literally, Daenerys and her people, she's got about 100 unsullied. The dragons just hatched. She's lost all of her hair. She's bald, right? That's something that didn't happen on the TV show, but in the books, when she steps into Khal Drogo's funeral pyre, she comes out, she's bald. She ain't got no hair. It would have been really cool to see short-haired Emilia Clarke on the Game of Thrones TV show, but that didn't happen, right? So anyway, for Daenerys, the Red Comet means that it's a way home. It's a way out of the terrible place that she's currently in. It's a way through the Red Waste, and it leads her to Qarth. Qarth, at first seems like it's, technically it leads her to Vaes Toloro, right? Vaes Toloro is this abandoned city that at one point was sacked by the Dothraki. She finds orchard trees there. She finds groundwater. She finds safety. She could rebuild the city and kind of hold out and wait till her dragons get bigger. But then the Red Comet kind of, like, to her, she thinks, oh, maybe the Red Comet was actually leading me to Qarth. So she ends up going to Qarth. So that's what it means for Daenerys. It means a way back home, ultimately. Like it's a sign for her, right? It's a sign for a lot of the other characters. But for Daenerys specifically, it means to her, go this way. Like, I'm leading, this sign has been sent to me to lead me this way, right? But then let's jump back over to Westeros. To Bran, he asks several different characters what the comet means. I think it's not mentioned to Bran, but in the Riverlands, they see it as the Tully colors, right? So the Tully colors is like a fish jumping, like a red fish or something with a blue background, and they say the comet is that red fish jumping with the Tully blue background, and then that's misinterpreted or miscued or whatever Catelyn sees it as. No, it's crimson for red for the Lannisters. It's a victory for House Lannister or whatever. But for Bran, he asks a few different people. Old Nan. I can't remember. Is it Old Nan that tells him it means dragons? Or is it... I think it is. Either way, to Bran, like, it means hope. Which is kind of what it means for Daenerys, but it's not necessarily leading Bran somewhere. It's a sign of hope, a sign of warning, right? It happens right after his father dies, so he kind of interprets it as like, in a roundabout way, of like the gods are crying, so to speak. I don't know. I was listening to, I think it was his third or fourth POV in A Clash of Kings, and I went to sleep during halfway through the chapter, and I had a dream, and I was like, this is what that means. And then I woke up, and that was like, 4 weeks ago, so now I've misconstrued it. But to Bran, it means hope. To Daenerys, it means hope as well, but also a way home. To Bran, I think he ultimately, when he's told that it means dragons, he kind of takes it as, oh, like, there's magic in the world, so maybe there's a chance to fix my legs. So to Bran, it means magic is real and that he has a chance to fix his legs. He doesn't find out until he goes and sees the crow, the three-eyed crow that, oh, yeah, I'll never fix your legs. You'll never walk again, but you'll fly, right? And then to... trying to think of another interesting aspect of who it... affects from like a different perspective. What I just mentioned, Daenerys and Bran, it means hope. There's a theory. I don't know, another YouTuber has done a video on it because I met this YouTuber. His name's Lucifer Means Lightbringer at Con of Thrones. And I remember I had never heard of him before until I seen him there. And I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, he's this YouTuber. He did this video about dragons being inside of an asteroid or something. And I remember thinking, I hadn't read the books back then. I remember thinking, what the fuck? How did he come up with that? Right? And then I read the books and I realized, oh, no. There's literally like, there's just like an old wives' tale. It's like some people believe that when there was a second moon in the sky, that moon cracked and then dragons poured out of it. Right? So that's kind of like, slightly related to the Red Comet. I feel like ultimately, like, there could be some sort of a preordained rotation order. And the last time that Red Comet was in the sky, none of the people who were alive to see it. So it could be something that happens every so often. And to me, what it means is the birth of dragons. Like, yeah, Ned Stark dies, but literally it pops up after Daenerys brings back dragons into the world. And dragons had been gone from the world at that point for a long period of time, right? So the last dragons we had were 130 AC, roundabout there. Most of them were dead by 150 AC. So the main storyline is taking place in 298 AC to 300 AC. It's 150 years without dragons. Dragons come back, that comet comes back. The question is, the real thing is, though, is like, the Maesters would have recorded that, is my point. So the last time the comet came around must have been before Maesters had recorded history. It's an under-discussed part of the lore, the North must remember, going back to your original topic question, because there's not... Like, it happens, and then it disappears, and then so much more stuff happens after that. So you can only kind of see the comet for Clash of Kings, and it's discussed in that book, and then it's kind of like, oh, well, here's some more information when we get to World of Ice and Fire that you can maybe connect the dots to. What do y'all think the Red Comet is? Because that's the last question from the North Must Remember, my executive producer. What do y'all think it is in the chat? This isn't an answer to that, but Hazel says Fire and Blood 2 or Wins. Who comes out earlier? Which comes out earlier in your opinion? Yeah, I mean, I would hope Wins a winner. But if there's like, if House of the Dragon ends, Fire and Blood Part 2 will come out first. Like, if House of the Dragon has all 3 seasons or all 4 seasons come out and Wins a Winner still isn't out, well, then Fire and Blood Part 2 will probably be out before Wins a Winner. But yeah, what do y'all think the comet means? Christian Law says, you think the comet landed somewhere? I don't know. You would think that something like that would make enough ripples and waves through the known world that someone would hear rumors of it. One of the many characters would run into one of the many POVs, and that would be discussed. If it did land somewhere, there's a lot of symbology in A Song of Ice and Fire for like a flaming spear through the night, right? Lightbringer itself, right? The sword that supposedly sucked up all the darkness out of the world, right? In a sense, right? Like the person who wielded it led the world from the long night, the first insanely, extremely long winter in which people had to do terrible things like the Starks and cannibalize themselves. So that's what that means. There's a connection there. Like, Daenerys brought back dragons into the world. There's a long night that was impending, but now, the sword that guards the realms of men has been born back into the world. So get ready. We just need to find someone who's going to wield it, a.k.a. Daenerys, riding on Drogon. Or, somebody riding Viserion or Rhaegal, one of her other 2 dragons. Like I said, Tyrion, if he is her brother, it would make sense he could hop on one of those dragons. But also, you hear in the lore of some people, like specifically Nettles. She doesn't look anything like a Targaryen. She's a muddy brown girl that rode a brown dragon. Or she's a brown girl that rode a muddy brown dragon. Sheep stealer, right? George did not make House Velaryon black in his books. House Velaryon are white. They look just like the Targaryens. They just can't ride dragons, right? So, anybody who's related to the Targaryens, or who's in the Targaryen family, or who's around Dragonstone, when the Dragon Seeds happens, like when in House of Dragon Season 2, right? In Fire and Blood Part 1, when the culling of the Dragon Seeds happens, bastards of Targaryen lineage or a pre-existing Valyrian dynasty before the Targaryens came over to Dragonstone, because a lot of people don't realize that the Targaryens didn't build Dragonstone. Dragonstone was built before the Targaryens could have even existed. It was built during the height of the Doom of Valyria. Or, I'm sorry, it was built during the height of the Valyrian Freehold, and it was just the furthest outpost, the one that was closest to Westeros. So when the Targaryens showed up there with all of their money, wealth, and dragons, they sort of took over it. And that was because Valyria was still around. So there was no reason for the other dragon lords to leave, right? What the hell was I saying? Oh, yeah, Nettles. So, this girl that doesn't look anything like Targaryens, she doesn't have the light, milky white skin, the purple eyes, or the white, silver, gold, precious metal hair. She's just brown, right? The idea is supposed to be put in your head that kind of like, oh, she developed a relationship with the dragon sheep stealer by feeding it mutton every day. So this is how she claimed the dragon, right? Rhaenyra goes racist and she's like, hey, she's a brown girl and a brown dragon. She used sorcery. She used sorcery to tame a dragon, right? So yeah, I don't know. What does the red comet mean to you guys? Let's see. D. Taylor says the comet is Lightbringer, a symbol of the change of an age. I think George is going for a death of magic. See, I take it as the birth of magic, because dragons literally mean magic, and he already had magic die out in the world. The story starts with dead magic. So George is turning that trope on its head, because like you always have fantasy. Well, no, I guess that's the same kind of trope. Let me stick back to my answer. I think that literally the comet means the birth of magic back into the world, because we keep hearing at the start of the story how there once was these magical individuals known as children of the forest who could run through the trees and speak to animals and doing crazy things like live for extended periods of time and like I said, communicate with animals. That's what we hear about when the story starts, and then you realize, oh, they're all gone. And then you hear there's these giants, and then you realize, oh, they're all gone. Like, magic. And then also, once we find out, oh, no, there's still children of the forest, there's still giants, they're just dwindled down to nothing. In my opinion, that's what that means. The start of the story is the death of magic. So more magical things start happening as dragons come back. So I don't agree with D. Taylor that says the comet is the change of an age for death of magic. It is the change of an age, but for the rebirth of magic. Magic is coming back into the world. Daenerys is riding dragons. The fire priests over in Essos are able to do insane things because Daenerys has brought fire magic and magic in general back into the world. You have Jon Snow with the wildlings, letting them down south, right? So you've got giants like back into the world, like being seen by people. Melisandre's magic is increased by tenfold at the wall because Daenerys brought back magic in the world. So maybe that comet and what it represents is, like you said, the change of an age, but not the death of magic. It's the rebirth of magic. Because Maester, like Bran, in my opinion, is one of... all of the POVs are my favorite ones to read, but Bran is one of the best in the sense when you're looking for magical answers in this story, because he's got this dude named Maester Luwin, who tells him everything. And Maester Luwin's not a regular maester, so to speak. Maester Luwin actually was very hungry and curious as a child, like Bran was, and this is what made him form his Valyrian steel link in the higher arts and magic. And Bran is told by Maester Marwyn, Maester Marwyn, I wish Marwyn ran into Bran. No, Luwin tells Bran that at one point magic was real and it's dead, right? So that's at the beginning of the story. So now dragons come back into the world, magic's coming back in the world. The story is about the birth of re-magic. George just puts very little bits of it and sprinkles it throughout the story. So if you're not paying attention enough, you'll miss some of the most magical shit ever. Like the fact that there's this dude who could summon a fire ladder, climb all the way to the top, and well, yeah, that's amazing. Like, no other description than that. Dude summons a fire ladder, climbs up the fire ladder, and is like 15 feet in the air. You can't fake that trick. That's real, right? Melisandre thinks to herself, magic is coming back. I don't need these fake-ass potions no more. My magic is getting stronger. So I strongly disagree with the sense that it's the death of magic. All right, so let's do this. I got another topic from my boy Tyler Schnabel. He is another executive producer on my Patreon, and he has submitted a topic as well. Let's see. Let me pull up that. All right. So shout out Tyler Schnabel. Thank you for your support. Also, shout out to my girl Brienne Johnson and Destiny Mix Queen Phillips 420, the Northwestern member, and Tyler Schnabel. They are all members of my Dragon Knight tier. He says, as far as video ideas go, a hint at the history of how Stark would be cool. Targaryens get most of the hype I've noticed, not from you, but from the general fandom. So, I intentionally included that bit about the Starks in that for this first part. But he goes on to say that in A Clash of Kings, or a run-through of Bran's last chapter in A Clash of Kings, he says, if for no reason other than the point of view of the burning of Winterfell, when Bran is in summer, he sees a worm in the sky that breathes fire and disappears. I always wondered about that. How about you? Is it a dragon beneath the Winterfell? If so, is it one of the supposed eggs that were left during the dance? It doesn't matter where a dragon leaves an egg. If it's not at Dragonstone, it turns to stone. The only way that the egg would not turn to stone is if you have a Targaryen doing a blood magic ritual, sacrificing someone they love, and pretty much giving up everything, including their own life, in hopes of bringing back a dragon. So, to answer your last question, if there are eggs under Winterfell, it doesn't mean that they're going to be usable. It doesn't mean they're going to be viable. So what happens is Vermax and Jace go to Winterfell, treat with Cregan, get him to pledge fealty, and during that time, Vermax supposedly lays eggs in the crypts of Winterfell. Here's the thing. Vermax has never been confirmed to be female. Vermax is supposed to be a male dragon. No one's ever seen it lay eggs, so that means it's a male dragon. And then also, why in the hell would a dragon be under the crypts of Winterfell, right? Like, first of all, how would a dragon get under there? Now, I've actually been sent leaks where someone's mentioned that Vermax is too big to sleep out in the yard, and he's scaring the Northmen, and also Vermax prefers the heat that comes from the hot springs underneath Winterfell. So Vermax sleeps underneath or in the crypts of Winterfell while Jace is staying at Winterfell and supposedly lays eggs while down there. That was what someone sent me through the leaks. Now, does that happen? Who knows? We will see. I kind of like the idea. But you said Bran is in summer. He sees a worm in the sky that breathes fire and then disappears. And he says, what does that mean? Well, definitely a dragon. Worms are constantly referenced when it comes to dragons. Fireworms may have been crossbred with wyverns to create dragons. Joffrey's lips, your lips look like two worms fucking. I'm sorry, Theon to Ramsay is what that is. Look at this image of Quaithe. That's so good. Look at that. This is the illustrated edition of A Clash of Kings. Oh, wow. I didn't even know there were mapsies on the last two pages. That's cool. If I ever get lost in Westeros, I've got mapsies. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look, this is the bleeding heart that Daenerys sees in the House of the Undying. Oh, wow. That's actually exactly how I saw it in my head. Swear to God, before I ever even seen this image, when I'm reading that, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. My brain's got this. Indigo blue. Oh, snap. Look at Jon Snow and Ghost. Jon Snow kind of looks like depictions of Ramsay that I've seen. Theon Greyjoy after Theon Greyjoy. Having fun. Hodor. Asha. Alright, so yes, this was during the POV. I'll just read the last couple of pages. Put this closer to my face. So basically, after the sacking of Winterfell, after you haven't had a POV from Bran in a really long time and you think he potentially could be lost or dead, you find out he's been staying under the crypts of Winterfell. And after they find out that the fighting is all done and Winterfell's been burned to the ground, that's when they decide it's time to escape. So then this is where his last POV catches up with him. And this is on page 826, which actually may be a different page in your version of Classic Kings, unless you have the illustrated edition, because I think the pages, they're different because... Oh, no. They don't include the illustrated pages. That's interesting. So it should be on page 826 in your version. We'll need to make a litter to carry him, said Asha. No use, said Lewin. I'm dying, woman. Kind of sound like well, that was a crazy fart. I don't think y'all could have heard that. You can't. Oh, man, that stinks. Oh, man. What was I about? Oh, yeah, I was about to say Lewin's being a smartass because he goes, no use, I'm dying, woman. No, you can't. Beside him, Shaggy Dog bared his teeth and growled. The maester smiled. Hush now, child. I'm much older than you. I can die as I please. There's no way you heard that fart. Hodor. Hodor, down, said Bran. Hodor went to his knees beside the maester. Listen, Lewin said to Asha. The princes, Robb's heirs, not together. Do you hear? The wildling woman leaned on her spear. Aye, safe for her part, but where to take them? I thought might be the Serwins. Maester Lewin shook his head, though it was plain to see the effort cost him. Serwin's boy is dead. Sir Roderick, Leopold Tallheart, Lady Hornwood, all slain. Dipwood fallen, Moat Cailin, soon torn square, Ironmen on the stony shore and east, the bastard of Bolton. Then where? Said Asha. White Harbour, the Umbers, I don't know. War everywhere. Each man against his neighbor, and winter coming. Such folly, such black, mad folly. Maester Lewin reached up and grasped Bran's forearms, his fingers closing with desperate strength. You must be strong now. Strong! Maester Lewin just went metal on him. I will be, Bran said, though it was hard. Sir Roderick killed, and Maester Lewin, everyone. Good, the maester said. A good boy. Your father's son, Bran. Now go. Asha gazed up at the weirwood, the red face carved in the pale trunk. And leave you for the gods? I beg, the maester swallowed, a drink of water, and another boon, if you would. Aye, she turned to Mira. Take the boys. Jojen and Mira led Rickon out between them. Hodor followed. Low branches whipped at Bran's face as they pushed between the trees, and the leaves brushed away his tears. Asha joined them in the yard a few moments later. She said no word of Maester Lewin. Hodor must stay with Bran to be his legs, the wildlings woman said briskly. I will take Rickon with me. We'll go with Bran, said Jojen Reed. Aye, I thought you might, said Asha. Believe I'll try the east gate and follow the king's road a ways. We'll take the hunter's gate, said Mira. Hodor, said Hodor. It's not you're going to say nothing else. Thanks for adding to the conversation, Hodor. They stopped at the kitchens first. Asha found some loaves of burned bread that were still edible, and even a cold roast fowl that she had ripped in half. Mira unearthed a crock of honey and a big sack of apples. Outside, they made their farewells. Rickon sobbed and clung to Hodor's leg until Asha gave him a smack with the butt end of her spear. Then he followed her quick enough. Shaggy Dog stalked after them. The last Bran saw of them was a direwolf's tail as it vanished behind the broken tower. The iron portcullis that closed the hunter's gate had been warped so badly by heat it could not be raised more than a foot. They had to squeeze beneath the spikes one by one. Will we go to your lord father? Bran asked as they crossed the drawbridge between the walls. To Greywell to watch. Mira looked to her brother for the answer. Our road is north, Jojen announced. At the edge of the Wolf's Wood, Bran turned in his basket for one last glimpse of the castle that had been his life. Wisps of smoke still rose into the gray sky, but no more than might have been risen from Winterfell's chimney on a cold autumn afternoon. Soot stains marked some of the arrow loops, and here and there a crack or a missing merlon could have been seen on the curtain wall, but it seemed little enough from the distance. Beyond the tops of the keeps and towers still stood as they had for hundreds of years, and it was hard to tell that the castle had been sacked and burned at all. The stone is strong, Bran told himself. The roots of the trees go deep, and under the ground the kings of winter sit their thrones. So long as those remain, Winterfell remained. It was not dead, just broken like me thought. I'm not dead either. George is a deep writer, and here's a little map of King's Landing. It's a little map of King's Landing. So yeah, that's dope. Bran's basically saying, I'll be back. Like, literally, he's like, Winterfell's just like me. It's still there, but it's broken, right? And, like, you know, the whole thing of him looking back and being like, you can't even really tell there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like, you know, just that last second, like, feeling remorseful for having to leave his home. He's like, I'm leaving because it's broken, but it doesn't look like it's broken kind of thing. It's really heart-wrenching, right? It's like when people, you know, will look at somebody on the surface and be like, oh, that's a happy person. Doesn't even look like there's anything wrong with you. Then you go inside, or Winterfell, or that person, and you're like, holy shit, it's burned and scorched. Those missing merlons and cracks look like they actually have a lot more damage closer up. But yeah. So this was really fun. We did an hour and 21 minutes. Got 39 likes. About 20 people watched the whole time. That's dope. Thank you all so much. It was early as hell. I know a lot of people on the West Coast, you know, this was like 6 in the morning for y'all. Sorry. And then, you know, people in England, this was like, 4? And then people where I'm at, on the East Coast, it's 9 in the morning, so it's still pretty early. But thank you for watching. If you're watching this afterwards, please slap a like on this video. Like goal is going to be 420. Get it? Weed. But yeah. Thank you for watching. And thank you to every single member of my Patreon family over at patreon.com/HunterReviews. Specifically my executive producers. They are the North Must Remember, my girl Brianne Johnson, Destiny Phillips, and Tyler Schnabel. Thank you all for watching this. Thank you all for your support. Shout out to everybody that was watching this live. Divine Sharika, John Haymaker, Carrot Cake, Mad Jack, and Sir Hunt's Review. Shell Lynn is another member of my Patreon family. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a good rest of your week. Today's Wednesday, right? Hell yeah. All right, so yeah, y'all have a good one. Alona.